All right, Algebra 1, here we go. Day 3 of solving equations. And today we are adding variables on both sides and combining like terms. We did a little bit, I think, in 3.1b notes, but mainly adding the variables on both sides. So let's review what we did in 3.1b with this bell ringer right here. So again, with all these problems, if you feel comfortable with them, pause the video, try the problem, come back and see if you have the right answer, and just see how you do with these while trying to work on your own. So let's see what we get here. Now, first thing, we notice we have parentheses, so that means that we need to use our distributive property. So we're going to take 4 times 1 to get 4, and 4 times 4n to get 16n. So that will be our first step. And then we're going to bring down the rest of the problem. Plus 6 equals 90. Again, remember, we stop the distributing when we hit the end of that parenthesis. Now, next step, combining like terms. So we will do this on each side of the equal sign today, but in 3.1b we only did it on one side. So our like terms over here, we had a 4 and a plus 6. So 4 plus 6 gives us 10. And again, I like to put my number out front. So I'm going to start with 16n, and 4 plus 6 gives me 10. Equals 90. Now, we need to get n by itself, so that means moving the 16 and moving the 10. But we want to do these in a specific order, and that is to move the number that does not have the variable first. So this is a positive 10. Keep in the back of your mind, we're always doing the opposite. So the opposite of adding 10 is subtracting 10. So we subtract 10 from both sides. These cancel. 16n equals, right-hand side, 90 minus 10 gives me 80. So 16n equals 80. Now, we need to get rid of the 16. We want n by itself. So this is being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division. So 16 divided by 16 is 1. 80 divided by 16 is 5. To give you your final answer, n equals 5. And again, we can always take that, bring it up here, plug it in for n, and show that this whole left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. Okay, so same notes that we've seen before. One thing that I will probably change up a little bit here, and you'll see why in a couple of weeks, is instead of moving the smaller one, I'm always going to move these variables from the right to the left-hand side of the equation. You'll see why later on, but for now, that's just what I'm going to do. If you move the smaller one, the reason why we suggest this is if you move the smaller variable, you will always be left with a positive variable, which then you don't have to track a negative sign. So if you're getting mixed up with negative numbers and stuff like that, I would follow this rule and just move the smaller variable. But if that's not an issue for you, I'm always going to move the variable from the right-hand side of the equation to the left-hand side. And like I said, you'll see why later. Here we go, same graphic you've been seeing on the past couple days of notes. Let's get into some examples. So our first step, let's come back to this actually. First step, distribute. If you see parentheses, you distribute. Well, I don't see any parentheses here, so I'm going to move on to my next step, which says combine like terms on the left side and combine like terms on the right side. All right, so let's come back here. On my left-hand side, now when I say left-hand side, I'm talking about left-hand side of the equal sign. And some of you did this, I believe you called them train tracks or whatever, where you basically set this up around your equal sign, so you kind of separated the problem, and that's great. If you're doing that and that helps you, keep doing it. 8b plus 2 is the left-hand side. There are no like terms over here, right? 8b and 2, they're not like terms, so that's just going to get brought down. 8b plus 2. So let's look at the right-hand side now. On my right-hand side, do I have any like terms? Yeah, we have a 3b. I got a 3b right here, and I got a plus 6b. So those are both like terms. They have the same variable, and they're raised to the same power. I'm going to bring that, again, I like having my variables out front. Equals 6b plus 3b gives me 9b. Remember, all we're doing is adding the numbers out front. 3 plus 6 equals 9. We're not multiplying, so we don't change the exponent. And then I have this plus 3. I have a positive 3, so plus 3, that's from this guy right here. Okay, now I am ready to start moving things around, and here is what's different on these notes. We are now moving variables. So if you see here, I have an 8b and I have a 9b. Now, in the bell ringer and the previous problems, we tried to separate the variable from the number. But that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is we're moving the entire term. So this is a 9b. I want it over here with the 8b, so I need to subtract that. So I'm going to subtract 9b from both sides. Now make sure you line it up. This is why we did the column stuff. We're going to line that up with the like terms. So I'm going to line up the b's. 9b minus 9b is 0b, so they are gone. Over here on the left side, 8b minus 9b is a negative 1b, which you could just write negative b if you wanted to. And then let's bring down the rest of this. Plus 2 equals, right-hand side, I'm just left with a positive 3. I'm going to keep these train tracks going. In case you guys are liking this, it does help to separate the left-hand side of the equation from the right-hand side. Now, when we get to this is going back to what we did on the first day of notes. Move the number with no variable. So let's get rid of that 2. It's a positive 2, so I'm going to subtract 2. 2 minus 2 is 0, so these are gone. Left-hand side, I'm just left with a negative 1b equals 3 minus 2 is 1. Again, we can keep these train tracks going here. And the last thing we need to do is get b by itself, so we have to get rid of the negative 1. So we divide both sides by negative 1. Break out your calculator if you need to, but in this problem we get b equals negative 1. And there is your final answer. Next, again, I'm looking at the left-hand side compared to my right-hand side, okay? So on the left-hand side, 16, let me write this down so you're not distracted by me doing this first. Okay, on the left-hand side, 16 plus 7b minus 9. What are my like terms? What do you think? What are the like terms? If you said 16 and negative 9, you are correct. So 16 and negative 9. There we go. Again, I like the variable out front, so I'm going to put 7b out front. And then I'm going to do 16 minus 9, and 16 minus 9 gives me 7. Equals the right-hand side. Do I have any like terms? No. 2b, 7, there are no like terms there, so I'm just going to bring that down. Now, we need to move our variable. We always want to move the variable first. So this is a 2b. I'm moving it to the left. It's a positive 2. So I'm going to do the opposite and subtract 2b. So minus 2b. Bring down never mind. So 7b minus 2b gives me 5b. Bring down the plus 7. Right-hand side, 2b minus 2b is 0. Those are gone. So I'm just left with 7. All right, now let's move the number. This is a positive 7. I'm going to move that to the other side by subtracting 7. So let's bring down that line there. I'm going to keep these train tracks going here. Got a couple more steps left here. So now our next step, 7 minus 7 is 0, so that's gone. Bring down the 5b, that's my left-hand side, equals 7 minus 7 over here is 0. And you may be thinking, well, I guess my answer is just 5, but it's not. Remember, we need to divide by 5, and you can use your calculator for this. Divide both sides by 5, but anytime we take 0 and we divide by a number other than 0, we will end up with 0. 0 divided by 0 is something different. That we're not going to get into that, but if you take 0 divided by a number other than 0, you will get 0. Okay, so b equals 0 is my final answer here. C I have done for you, so let me talk you through this one. Again, looking at the equal sign, left-hand side, 9a minus 6. No like terms there, so that one's good. Right-hand side, I do have some like terms. I have a 2a, and I have a 3a. 2a plus 3a gives me 5a. So the left-hand side I just brought down, 9a minus 6. The right-hand side, 2a plus 3a is 5a, and then I brought down my minus 14. Next step, I'm moving the variable to the left. So this is a positive 5a. If I'm moving it over here, I need to subtract it. So subtract 5a from both sides. 5a minus 5a is 0. So these two will cancel out. 9a minus 5a is 4. So we end up with 4a, bring down the minus 6, equals negative 14. Now, our next step, we need to move this negative 6. So right now it's a negative or a minus 6. So we're going to do the opposite and add 6. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. They cancel out. Negative 14 plus 6 is 8. Negative 8, sorry. Negative 14 plus 6 is negative 8. And now we need to move the 4, not the 4a, just move the 4. So this is being multiplied. We do the opposite and divide. Now I want to back up a step here after I finish this. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2 for the final answer. Okay? Now let me back up a step, because I want to explain the difference here, because sometimes people get this mixed up, and I want to make sure that you understand what's happening. Mainly in, let me switch up the color here. Mainly in this step right here, we'll call this step 1, even though it's not step 1, it's really step 2. And this step down here. So in this where I have next to the 1, you see my goal here was to move this entire term, 5a, over here with this 9a. So it wasn't to separate the 5 from the a, it was to move that entire term over to the left-hand side. Now that's different from what I have down here next to this too, because my goal here in this step was to just get rid of the 4 to leave me with a by itself. Okay, so it's important you understand the difference there, because what I will see happen is people say, well, I need to move this, so I'm going to divide by 5, and they divide by 5 and then end up making a mistake. Okay, our goal is not to separate the 5 from the a. Our goal was to move this whole term over to the other side with this 9a. And that's different from down here, because the goal here was to separate the 4 from the a. That was being multiplied, so we divided. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I just wanted to take a little bit of time to explain that, because I see that mistake happen a lot. Okay, 2 more. Now, this one we do have like terms on both sides. So on the left-hand side, what are my like terms? Well, the numbers with no variables. I have a negative 5 and a plus 6. Those are my like terms on the left-hand side. Again, I like to have the variable out front, so I'll put 6x. Negative 5 plus 6 is a positive 1. Equals, right-hand side, what are my like terms over here? 3x and a positive x, which means plus 1x. There's a 1 in here, even though it's not written. So let's put the variables out front. 3x plus 1x is 4x. 3 plus 1 is 4. We don't change the x. And then bring down the minus 9. So there we go. There's our first step of combining like terms. Now I will move my variable first. And again, I want to move this entire term over here with the 6x. I don't want to separate the 4 from the x. I want to move the whole thing. This is a positive 4x, so I subtract. So subtract 4x from both sides. So there we go. 4x minus 4x is 0. Those are gone. Left-hand side, 6x minus 4x is 2x. Bring down your plus 1. Equals, right-hand side is negative 9. Now this is another key thing. When you bring that down, don't just bring the 9 down. That negative sign goes with it. Next step, we need to move the 1. So that's a positive 1. I'm going to do the opposite and subtract 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Those are gone. Left-hand side is 2x. Equals, right-hand side, break out your calculator, negative 9 minus 1. This is negative 10, not negative 8, negative 10. Last step, I do now want to separate the 2 from the x, so divide by 2, divide by 2. X equals negative 5. There we go. I don't know what's going on with this. There we go. Last one. Again, what I want you to do here is pause the video and try this problem on your own. Okay, this will give you a good indication of whether or not you actually know what's happening here. So pause the video, do this problem on your own, and then come back and see if you have it correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with adding my like terms. So left-hand side, my like terms are 3y and a plus 16y. On the right-hand side, I have 5y and I have plus 4y. So on the left-hand side, 3y plus 16y is 19y, so 19y. And in this case, I just brought the negative 9 down. Typically, I would put the y term out front, but mix it up a little bit there. It doesn't matter. Right-hand side, you can see I did put the variable first. 5y plus 4y is 9y, and then I brought down the plus 1. Now, I'm moving my variable to the left. So this is a positive 9y. I'm going to subtract it to move it to the other side. 9y minus 9y is 0. Those are gone. Left-hand side, bring down the negative 9. 19 minus 9 is 10. Y equals 1. Now, move the number with no variable. So I need to move the negative 9. This is a negative. I do the opposite, and I add. So add 9 to both sides. Negative 9 plus 9 is 0. Those are gone. Left-hand side is just 10. Y. And the right-hand side is 10. 1 plus 9 is 10. Again, now our goal is to separate the 10 from the y. Those are being multiplied, so I do the opposite and divide. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So final answer there, y equals 1. So hopefully that's the answer you got. I really hope that you guys actually paused the video and did attempt that on your own to see how you do with it. But again, if not and you just followed with, that's okay. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to practice one on your own. So again, like always, we're adding different stuff to this each day. So like always, if you have questions, send me an email or a private comment, but make sure that you're getting your questions answered before we move on to the next day. So yeah, just let me know if you have questions.